Hey guys, it's going to be the Blackrook Hold Mythic Plus guide. I'm going to go over all the mob abilities, all the boss abilities, and how to deal with them. So let's get right into it. So right off the bat, there's going to be either left or right. Right side has way more casters. It has 4 total casters. The left side has 2. Pretty sure there's 2 casters in here. And basically, you want to reduce the amount of casters you deal. So you're basically trading casters for retainers, and the retainers do an ability called Soul Blade, and it just puts random dots out. It does not recast on CC. And the counselors do Soul Blast, which does recast on CC. It just requires kicks. And the main mob you want to kill in here is the protectors. The reason being is the protectors do an ability called Sacrifice Soul, and it reduces the damage taken by their friends by 75%. But the protectors take 200% increased damage. Now, if you pull 2 protectors, it cancels the buff out, and they still take reduced damage. But yeah, you basically want to pull enough to where it dies in a timely manner. If you're in a pug group, I would highly recommend pulling 1 protector at a time. I would not go right side because there's just way too many casts. Now the other difference is the right side has a different mini boss. It has a mini boss with a frontal and a very high damage nuke. If you guys did the first boss in an Ultimon, the dwarves, it's the same thing as ricocheting shield, very high damage. And this left side is just a caster, and he does an ability that the boss has where he puts like the little puddles down that fear you if you stand in it, and he just does a cast. Super simple. You basically want to use CCs on the counselor and then main kicks on the mini boss. As you can see, the mini boss goes off, does a crap ton of damage. Basically, you want to let as little cast off as possible. Now, the other thing is this side is much more heavy on kicks. The right side is much more deadly because of the one-shot mechanics. So if you have the kicks, go left side. If you don't have the kicks, go right side. And just be careful on the amount of counselors you pull. So next up is the first boss. So the first boss does very, very few mechanics. It does Swirling Scythe, which just targets player, shoots a scythe out. If you stand in it, you'll get 1 to 2 shot, depending on your key level. Knocks you back, does very high damage. He does Soul Echoes, which is this ability right here, and you just put little puddles down. You see they have a very large activation time, so you can save room by just stacking them. It's about, I want to say, every 3 puddles it explodes. So pretty easy to deal with. Just like the free old cannons, you have grace periods, so you don't need to move that fast, and it only goes on 1 person, so you can keep it as contained as you want if it goes on you. He does Reap Soul, which is just a big conal. It's like it's a half moon basically, and it takes up quite a bit of space. And if you get hit, it will pretty much one tap you or cheat you, and it increases damage taken by 20%. You see the scythe there does a crap ton of damage. There's the Soul Echoes, and you can see those puddles. About every 3, it explodes. Might even take longer than that, honestly. And there's the half moon I was talking to you about. He just repeats those mechanics till 50%. Now, at 50%, he will call a bunch of ads around the room, and if they reach the boss, he gives them a damage buff for his Soul Burst. His Soul Burst is basically a raid nuke. Its idea is to one shot. You each had to pop big defensives. It happens once a fight. As far as I know, I've never seen it happen a second time. So if I'm wrong about that, comment down below. But I've never seen it happen more than once. I'm pretty sure it's just 50%. And yeah, you basically you want to kill all the ads, or one good strat is to kill all but 1 ad and leave it CC'd, like chain hard CC it with like fear, root, stuff like that, and keep it CC'd. And that way it prolongs the phase, because the phase has a maximum time to it. So if you can just sit there and hit him for as long as you can with no mechanics, then super good. If you're at Blood DK here, you can grip them in. Sigil of Chains works on them. It's really nice. You can get them grouped up and deal with them pretty fast. And you see the double Sigil of Chains there. You can get them really tightly grouped and just AoE them down. It's really nice. And you see that he gets 1 buff of Soul. And we're going to pop all our defensives here. And boom, that's it. You live that, and then you're golden. You just have to live the easy mechanics. And then there's a long RP after this boss. So this RP, You could probably, like, if you wanted to skip the first mini boss and then go do them after the first boss, especially for the checkpoint, you could. That would be a good option, especially so you aren't doing literally nothing while you're doing RP. So that's a good option. And yeah, after the RP, you have to deal with spiders. So this whole hallway, this next whole hallway you're going to see, has two types of mobs. It's just the mini spiders and the big spider. They do the same ability. They just have an auto attack debuff called Soul Venom, and it stacks up. It is parryable. The parry, you don't take a stack when you're parried. You can also pre-AMS it, which prevents the application of stacks, and that's really good. You're going to move with Dwarf, regular Dispel, Diffuse, stuff like that. I'm going to fast forward to the RP. You can see it's quite a lengthy RP. Go up here. I would highly recommend having a speed buff, like a Roar or just a personal speed buff when you do this hallway, so your gathering is quick. So you can see these little debuffs I'm getting. Gets a big stack, and then this one Dispel. And then you just tank them right here. You see my stack acquisition is like pretty low because I'm just parrying a bunch. And yeah, that's it. You just kill that. As soon as you kill all the little ones, you want to move this into the next pack. So this next room is arguably the hardest room in the entire dungeon. It has two really important mobs, Risen Scoucher and Risen Archers. The Risen Scouts do an ability called Knife Dance. You just have to CC it. You can use any form of CC, Fear, Knocks, Stuns, stuff like that. It does not recast on CC, and if you let it cast, it'll do a channel that does a lot of AoE damage. Now, the Archers, they do Shoot, and they do a Leap, and it goes from Leap into Arrow Barrage, and it'll just do a frontal. You want to CC this as fast as possible because it comes out very quickly, and does a lot of party damage. The next mob is the Risen Arcanist, which does a buff. He does a cast called Arcane Blitz. It's a pretty slow cast. You just have to chain kick that. And if it goes off, he gets a buff called Arcane Blitz, and it does more damage on subsequent casts. You cannot spell to steal this anymore, apparently, according to the Wowhead post I just read today. So watch out for that. Can't really cheese it anymore. Then there's the Arcane Minion, who just does this ability called Phased Explosion, and he basically just teleports around on players. It does recast on CC, so you can't escape this. It will eventually get off. And then the champion just does a frontal bone-breaking strike, just dodge it, point it away from people. The last mob is the Risen Companion. This just does a leap that leaves a dot. It's a bleed, so just watch out. Does a lot of damage. And that's it. That's the whole hallway. So basically, you want to limit the amount of scouts and archers that you pull to what your group can handle. So you see here, I'm doing a massive pull. This is really dangerous. The CC requirement on this is extremely high. So I would probably, unless you're like a very organized group, I wouldn't do this because I'm pretty sure this one also ends up killing us at some point. But yeah, this would be a good lust pull if you had your lust. I would lust the first pull and then either the second boss or some other trash pack after the second boss. And like I said here, like you just kind of, it's a little too much. You could probably get away with it on Tyrannical Weeks in a lower key, especially since like with reduced damage, but I wouldn't recommend it on 4 or a higher key. It's a pretty risky pull. Now, once you kill all the mobs here, the mini boss will jump down. It's called Commander Shemda, and he does the same thing as the champions. He just does the bone breaking strike, and he has 2 archers and 2 scouts. So high CC requirement pull anyway, and you basically want to use the pillars to your advantage in LOS. So the archers and scouts, they do have a minimum range or a maximum range. So if you're like a range player and you're like 40 yards away, they won't touch you. So people like Boomkins and Marksman Hunters can kind of just do nothing on these pulls and take no damage. The scouts do damage, I'm pretty sure, but I would have to retest that. When we tried that, it was still hitting them even though they were really far away. And you see here the arrow barrage, like it comes out really quick, and there's the knife dance. And like I said, the CC requirements are really high on these pulls, so you have to be careful. You need to use the pillars to your advantage. Range can literally just sit next to the pillars and LOS on their shoot cast if they want. And yeah, that's it. It's the whole area. There's going to be one more pack between this and the second boss. It's just 2 archers and a champion. Super easy to deal with. Just you see the arrow barrages. And the next boss is Ilisana Ravencrest. So this boss is really simple. 3 mechanic boss. She has Vengeful Shear, which is to tank it. Make sure you have CD or your mitigation up, like Demon Spikes, Iron Fur, or any form of cooldown. She also has Brutal Glaive, which is you'll have a little circle under your feet now. They added that in the last PTR. And it can ricochet and add more bleeds. It's a very long bleed. I think it's like 30 seconds. This is dwarfable. You can like pre-immune it to like avoid it, buffable, stuff like that. And then there's Dark Rush. So Dark Rush, she targets 3 people, and she jumps between them and leaves a line. And she jumps to each person once. We tried stacking this on the last week of PTR, and it worked pretty well. So you could actually like stack this. Just don't be like literally stack. Like be in like a triangle basically, and it can be like a really tight triangle, and it's pretty easy. Like it reduces the amount of space the fire takes up. Now, this intermission phase, she summons the Arcanist in the champion, so doesn't really do much. Again, just the frontal and the kick. And then she does the I-beam. Now, this I-beam prioritizes anyone with the ranged roll. So if you're all melee, this will target melee, but if you have 4 melee, 1 range, it will target that 1 range no matter what. It will not target anyone else. And yeah, if you're the 1 ranged, I'm sorry. If you're multiple range, it can pick any of the ranged out there. And that's pretty much it. That's the whole fight. You just rinse, repeat that until she dies. It's a very simple fight. If you're all melee, watch out for the Brutal Glaive. It is on their person with the Glaive debuff to run out. You basically have to be ready for it because it will... Like the healer check when you give everyone a Brutal Glaive is absolutely insane. So yeah. That's it. On to the next area. So the next area is a high CC requirement area again, so I would definitely pull to your group's capabilities. There's 2 mobs. There's the Worm Tongue Tricksters. These do not do anything that you need CC for. And then there's the Scavengers. Now, the Scavengers do require CC. I'm going to fast forward just so we can get to those mobs. Oh, and there's also this Boulder Hallway. So this Boulder Hallway is kind of just like the brain check, so don't die to these. And then once you get to the top of the stairs, the boulders stop falling. See here. And like I said, the Scavengers have a Drink Potion ability. This does recast on CC, so you want to chain CC this as long as possible. When it goes off, they can either get this buff called Indigestion, which gives them a Fire Frontal that does follow you until the cast finishes. So it'll follow you, and then once the cast finishes and the channel starts, it'll stop moving. And then they do the other one can be Bowled Over. So this is RNG. It can be any of them. Bowled Over basically makes them spin and knock back and do a crap ton of damage. And if you CC it, it will stun them. And so basically you just want to use like any form of light CC that will stun them. And that's about it. They start casting Drink Potion, I want to say around 70%-ish, 70, 60, one of the two. And you basically just chain CC them. You see the Drink Potion here, they're going to recast while CC'd. Or I keep CCing them. It's my fear. My sigil. And you basically see like the idea here. And you're just literally chain CCing them over and over. This is a really good lust pull. Like, it's a very valuable lust pull. Oh, also the last 2 mobs, the Wrathguard Blade Lords, they have an Enrage that increases their physical damage and attack speed. So you really want to soothe that if possible. Like, Evoke or AoE Soothe is good on a big pull like this. And then they also do Brutal Assault, which is CCable, and it doesn't recast. And yeah, and also if you pull the Fellhound here, he just does a Drain Life cast. You just have to kick it. And there's another Boulder Hallway. So this next hallway is the second most dangerous hallway. This is probably going to be the Pug Killer. You can Invis skip past all but 2, unless you double Invis skip after the 3rd boss. But you probably will have to deal with these. So this basically this area is just permanent bat spawns, and these bat spawns come with Fell Dominators. There's 4 Fell Spite Dominators, and they do this ability called Fell Frenzy. And you basically just have to have 2 people for each Fell Spite Dominator to get every single kick. And if it goes off, it increases all damage by nearby allies by 50%. So this includes the bats. And they also do an ability called Sick Bats. And this puts a fixate on a person, and all the bats will target that person, and the bats are pretty fast, and they will just one-shot you. Does a crap ton of damage, and then, like I said, you add like the fell domination that goes off, and they're buffed, and they do huge damage. So what I would recommend doing is doing 2 at a time, and pull them down to the bottom of the stairs so the ranged have room to kite, and they can like use these stairs to their advantage. So you basically pull it down to where these 2 scavengers are now, and you fight them there. And you either do that or you invis like what we're doing, and then you fight the 2 in the 3rd boss's room. Now, if you have like a prop hal or something, maybe you can get away with doing all 4 of the Felspite Dominators. That wouldn't be too bad. And yeah, you basically just invis here, and you have to kill 2 because there's one right here when you exit, and then there's one right in front of the doorway going to the last boss. And then you'll have the last boss hallway. So you're going to see how we deal with this. I fast forward just a little bit so you can see me pulling. And like I said, it's 2 kicks per 1 Dominator. And then there's the sick bats you see. We vortex them. I'm pretty sure our evoker insta-dies here, I want to say. Maybe. Nope, he lives. Good. And then there's the kicks. There's the sick bats again. Sigil of Chains, Ring of Peace, Vortex, Binding Shot, all really good here. And then you see the perfect. You can see the cast goes off. They grow a little bit and they do more damage. It is not soothable by anything. Like I don't think you can be dispelling it by anything. But yeah, that's about it. All right, let's move on to the next boss. Smash Spite the Hateful. This is a 3 mechanic boss. He does Hateful Charge, which is basically he does the charge. He targets one person. You cannot feign this until the cast finishes or vanish. And then, so basically whoever gets hit and gets a 500% damage taken increase for the charge ability. And this basically stops from one person from soaking multiple, but it can be parried or dodged. If you check my brew guide, which I'll have a link in the description below, it will show you how to force that dodge on Brewmaster. DH can parry it. So basically the way you want to deal with this is you can soak the first 3 with damage reductions and just having parry up. And you basically want to have Sigil of Flame and Demon Spikes up for each one. Now, if you don't have anyone who can do this, so say you have like, I don't know, just 4 people who aren't comfortable doing it, then you want to take the charge only 1 person at a time, and it's a 3-person rotation. You can do something, so when the cast finishes and it's like moving towards you, you can feign midair and it'll cancel it. Or you can, like that, perfect. So you see like you shadow melted once the cast finished and it canceled in midair. So you can do that, vanish, stuff like that. Makes it really easy, basically ignores the whole mechanic. And then there's the bats, and they have like you have like a little like ball above your head, and you should have a line that tells you where it's coming from, and you basically just want to conserve as much space as possible by aiming these in a way that doesn't take up much space to reduce the line length as short as possible. So you see like here I'm putting in old stuff. And this reduces the amount of space you take up the entire time. Now it is bugged on PTR even up to the last week, where the line just sometimes would not show up. You could not see your own line, so you were just guessing. Now there's one tank mechanic, or there's also the Earth-Shaking Stomp, which happens after every hateful charge. Big AoE damage. Just make sure you're topped. And if you're gonna take a charge like raw, make sure you have a defensive, so that way you're not getting one shot by a stomp. Now, he does have one last mechanic. It's called Brutal Haymaker, and basically he has the energy bar, and when that energy bar reaches 100, he does Brutal Haymaker, which is big tank damage. It makes you take more physical damage for 10 seconds. Now, this energy bar is filled by him auto-attacking you, basically, and it's basically an active mitigation check. If you don't have your active mitigation up, it's going to build much faster. The more tank damage you take, the faster it fills. So it's basically an old active mitigation check from Legion, because that's when they first introduced those like little checks. And that's the whole fight. This next area is 2 different types of mobs: Risen Swordsmen and Risen Lancers. Risen Swordsmen do an ability called Coup de Grace, and it's just a tank buster. You can backstep this, so Halls of Valor, if you remember all those abilities. Those tank busters that you could backstep, same thing. You can do the same thing here. You can also CC them and they won't recast. And then there's the Risen Lancer, and they do this ability, Raven's Dive, and it's just a circle on the ground, and you have to dodge it right there. It's pretty fast. And these also do not recast on CC. You see Vortex really, really helpful for this. You see Coup de Grace not recasting on CC. And yeah, that's it. This whole pool. You basically want to group it up, ideally in a more open area, so you can do it in the last boss's room, and it's pretty easy. Or you can bring it back to the third boss's room if you're really paranoid about it, but I would just do it up here. I think this is fine. And if it hits, the Raven's Dive hits you, you just get chunked and it stuns you. So this last boss has two phases. It has P1, which is just you're fighting fighting the Night Elf, and then he has another guy up above doing random shadow bolts, and a frontal you have to dodge, or a line you have to dodge. So the shadow bolt, it pretty much does like 90% of your HP. So this like first phase is kind of like a DPS check. Like you don't want to like be in this phase too long because you're going to expend too many defensives. And once you get into the last phase, you're going to need your defensives. So, and he also does a bleed on the tank. It does stack Unerring Shear. You cannot dwarf it or caught it. We tried. So, yeah, it's annoying. And he does this Whirling Blade, which just targets one person. It tracks them until the cast finishes, and then it travels from where the boss was when it finished casting to where that person was standing. So if you're standing like on top of the boss, it'll be really short. And it basically one-shots you if you get hit. And there's the Lionel that I was talking about. So basically I said this is kind of like a DPS check. And you see it stops where that person was. And then at 20%, he phases and he turns into Dantalian Axe. So there's a little RP area. You can get people up. And he turns into Dantalian Axe. He'll just do nothing until his first ability is called Shattable Volley. This first one, if you guys played Legion, it basically one-shots you. You need big defensives because it's doing one-shot damage. And it leaves a dot on you. So you want to use like your big defensives immunes on this first one. And then he'll go right into a Stinging Swarm. And the Stinging Swarm basically puts an ad on somebody, and it'll periodically do big physical damage, and it will stun them. And so basically, this is going to go on our healer here. You need to kill it as fast as possible because it's an absolutely insane mob. That combined with the Shattable Volley damage that you're seeing here, really hard. It can go on the tank, so if you're lucky, you can get it on the tank. You do not want to cooldown at first on this first part where you get this buff. So you get a buff to increase your damage by 300%. You don't want to cooldown yet because he phases this Dreadlord's Guise. He does that pretty fast. Or Dreadlord's Guile. And he goes untargetable here, and you just have to run around the room and dodge these lines. So here either goes clockwise or counterclockwise. And you just keep dodging. And then once he gets out of here, you'll want to pop Lust, and that's where the hard part begins. And you're basically just hoping the Stinging Swarm doesn't kill you. You can bop this off, so that's really, really nice. You can like pre-immune it like Ice Block, stuff like that, and it's really helpful. And you basically rinse and repeat that the whole entire fight. It's a pretty tight healing check. It's a DPS check with the Stinging Swarm because again, it needs to die fast. They do absolutely insane damage. You see the Stinging Swarm goes on me, and it'll periodically stun me like that. There's also the Sleep Glide you have to dodge. But yeah, you can see like how much our healer has to heal. Like it's an absolute insane boss. Highly recommend having Lust with this, and make sure you have a lot of cooldowns up. And yeah, it's a whole fight. We're gonna fast forward a little bit just so you can see the sleep phase again. And you just do this, and see this one's going clockwise. But yeah, hope you guys learned something. That's the whole fight. That's the whole dungeon. I appreciate you guys watching. That's all the dungeon guides. Like, subscribe. We'll have both the tank guides, VDH, and Brewmaster down below. And yeah, thank you guys for so much support. I appreciate you guys so much. Love you guys. I will see you on the next one, and look forward to seeing everyone in Season 3. Have a good one.